Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back.
All right, all you positive heads, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween to you all. You know, when I was talking about the veil a couple weeks ago, Melody had emailed me and I had mentioned maybe going into this topic a little bit more on that show, and she thought that'd be a good idea, and I thought so too. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to look into the origins of Halloween. So it actually took me a little sifting through. There's a ton of information out there, and a lot of it can be more of a religious tone or biased in some way, shape, or form. And actually, the original origins, the ancient Celtic origins of this holiday actually are an oral tradition and weren't written down. And so what we know of them is what has been handed down orally and written down closer to our more modern times. So sifting through this information is definitely interesting. So I will tell you what I found out. So many of you may know that our American tradition of Halloween originated with an ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, spelled Samhain. So nothing, it's not pronounced anything like the way it looks, but pronounced Samhain. And Samhain is a festival where the ancient Celts would celebrate harvest and also celebrate and honor their ancestors. Now, Halloween somehow came from that, and I'm going to tell you how. It's very interesting. And we're going to talk more about Samhain itself, but the way that Halloween came out of it. So, as Christianity was spreading through the lands, Pope Boniface IV in 609 AD declared May 13th to be a day in honor of Christian martyrs, a Catholic feast called All Martyrs' Day. And after that, Pope Gregory III, he changed it to coincide with Samhain and called it All Saints' Day. And by the year 1000 AD, the church made November 2nd All Souls' Day, which was a day to honor the dead. So it was believed that the church was attempting to basically replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related church-sanctioned holiday. Interesting indeed. So All Souls Day was actually celebrated a little bit similarly to Samhain, where fires were lit and celebrations were had and costumes were put on, although in Samhain it wasn't necessarily a costume. And the All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows, or All Hallow Mass, for the Mass on that day, on All Saints' Day. Eventually, it began to be called All Hallows' Eve, and eventually Halloween. So, as the immigrants came to America, the first celebrations here in America were parties and celebrations of the harvest. And people would sit around and share stories of their dead loved ones, their ancestors. They would also tell each other's fortunes and dance and sing. So they also started to tell ghost stories and do some mischief making. So it was about the 19th century when the Irish potato famine happened, and so many Irish came to America at that time. And with it, they brought more traditions of Halloween. So the Irish at that time had brought forth some of their Celtic tradition, but it wasn't the old days because it was still melded with what the church had done. So then it was brought to America and changed up even more here. So I found this on the History Channel website, actually. It says that the American Halloween tradition of trick-or-treating probably dates back to the early All Souls Day parades in England. During the festivities, poor citizens would beg for food and families would give them pastries called soul cakes in return for their promise to pray for the family's dead relatives. The distribution of soul cakes was encouraged by the church as a way to replace the ancient practice of leaving food and wine for roaming spirits. The practice, which was referred to as going a-souling, was eventually taken up by children who would visit the houses in their neighborhood to be given ale, food, and money. The tradition of dressing in costume for Halloween has both European and Celtic roots. Hundreds of years ago, winter was an uncertain and frightening time. Food supplies often ran low, and for many people afraid of the dark, the short days of winter were full of constant worry. On Halloween, when it was believed that ghosts came back to the earthly world, people thought that they would encounter ghosts if they left their homes. To avoid being recognized by these ghosts, people would wear masks when they left their homes after dark so that the ghosts would mistake them for fellow spirits. So there you go. Halloween costumes and trick-or-treating came out of a long, distorted line of ancient tradition. I find it fascinating to see what we have done as humans with our religions and with our own distortions about things. What we've done to these ancient traditions, because this tradition is so beautiful about celebrating the harvest, about being grateful for abundance, about being grateful towards our ancestors, honoring our ancestors. And to see what it has turned into, it's just a little mind-blowing. What's really cool is we see a festival of these sorts happening in all different cultures all over the world. There is the Hindu or Jain festival of Diwali, and Diwali is the festival of lights, which ushers light into the darkness. And it happens exactly around this time of year. What I found interesting as well is that the first day of Diwali, and I think it's 5 days, but the first day is dedicated to the goddess Lakshmi, who is the goddess of abundance. So all of these traditions have the same roots. They all came out of this same abundant space that we all have access to. And this time of the year, when the veil is the thinnest, there's a lot of access. So it's interesting to see all these different traditions all over the world. But let's talk about Samhain. Samhain, and this I got from learnreligions.com. Samhain is considered a Sabbat to honor the ancestors who came before us, marking the dark time of the year. It is an excellent time to contact the spirit world with a seance because it's the time when the veil between this world and the next is at its thinnest. According to Selena Fox of Circle Sanctuary, the timing of contemporary Samhain celebrations varies according to spiritual tradition and geography. Many of us celebrate Samhain over the course of several days and nights, and these extended observances usually include a series of solo rites, as well as ceremonies, feasts, and gatherings with family, friends, and spiritual community. In the Northern Hemisphere, many pagans celebrate Samhain from sundown on October 31st through November 1st. Others hold Samhain celebrations on the nearest weekend or on the full or new moon closest to this time. Some pagans observe Samhain a bit later or near November 6th to coincide more closely with the astronomical midpoint between fall equinox and winter solstice. Samhain is often referred to as the Witches' New Year. Sunset on Samhain is the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The old year has passed, the harvest has been gathered, cattle and sheep have been brought in from the fields, and the leaves had fallen from the trees. The earth slowly begins to die around us. This is a good time for us to look at wrapping up the old and preparing for the new in our lives. Think about the things you did in the last 12 months. Have you left anything unresolved? If so, now is the time to wrap things up. Once you've gotten all that unfinished stuff cleared away and out of your life, then you begin to look towards the next year. Beautiful reminder, isn't it? Great time of year. Wrap things up, let things go. Start looking towards the new year. Samhain is when we honor our ancestors who came before us. If you've ever lost a loved one, it is the perfect night to celebrate their memory. And if we are fortunate, they will return to communicate with us from beyond the veil and offer advice, protection, and guidance for the upcoming year. And from the Parliament of Religions website, it says, "This is a time specifically carved out of the wheel of the year to acknowledge death and loss, to experience grief, and for venerating the ancestors and honoring departed spirits. Many pagans will dedicate a home altar to this ritual with photographs, food offerings, and other tokens of remembrance." For pagans, death is not a thing to be feared, but is part of the wheel of life. Death is the ultimate rite of passage, the final act that we complete as human beings. Old age is valued for its wisdom, and dying is accepted as natural, as a form of transformation. Death is the great equalizer that puts everything else into perspective. The Celts believed that at the time of Samhain, more so than any other time of the year, the spirits of the dead were able to mingle with the living. The echoes of this ancient tradition can be seen in popular Halloween celebrations today. Contemporary pagans still accept that as the life force of our hemisphere wanes, the veils between this world and the other worlds are at their thinnest, and our memories, connections, and abilities to communicate with our beloved dead are heightened. Death also symbolizes other endings. Therefore, Samhain is not only a time for reflecting on mortality, but also on the passing of relationships, jobs, and other significant life transitions. And one of the rituals that was held at Samhain to honor the dead was a dumb supper. And a dumb supper is a meal that is served and consumed in total silence. And each bite taken is taken in the name of your loved ones. So an empty chair is placed at the head of the table, and that chair is for all of the ancestors who might want to join. And a piece or a serving of whatever is at the table is offered on the plate for the ancestors. And afterwards, that plate is then given out at night to the spirits or the animals, the fairies, whoever comes to take it. And we don't necessarily have to have a dumb supper, but we can set the intention of honoring our ancestors. And doing that with any ritual that we feel suits us or resonates with us, or even just with the pure intention of it.
Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking The Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And, with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving. And it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own, as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, thegreat.mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting and someone will get back to you.
The Goddess and Green Man website says this: the god, as Sun King, is sacrificed back to the land with the seed until the winter solstice, and the goddess, now as crone, mourns him until his rebirth at Yule. He travels the underworld learning its wisdom. This is the time of the descent into darkness, of preconception, out of which new life, new ideas will eventually emerge. Traditionally, the veils between the worlds are at their thinnest now. Boundaries dissolve, and all is laid bare. It is time to honor and offer hospitality to our ancestors. At Samhain, the dark half of the year commences. It is a truly magical time. Death is always followed by rebirth, and while this is the end of the old year, it is the beginning of the new year. For the Celts, the day did not begin at dawn. It began at sunset. It began with darkness. Light is always born out of darkness. They are inseparable, interdependent, and necessary. Darkness is fertile, with all potential. With the beginning of this dark phase comes the opportunity to rest and reflect on the past and to dream of new beginnings. The seed now hidden in the earth will germinate in its season. Look for those seeds in yourself. And I found a couple prayers on irishcentral.com, Samhain prayers. This first one is a Samhain prayer to our ancestors. This is the night when the gateway between our world and the spirit world is thinnest. Tonight is a night to call out those who came before. Tonight, I honor my ancestors. Spirits of my fathers and mothers, I call to you and welcome you to join me for this night. You watch over me always, protecting and guiding me, and tonight I thank you. Your blood runs in my veins. Your spirit is in my heart. Your memories are in my soul. With the gift of remembrance, I remember all of you. You are dead but never forgotten, and you live on within me and within those who are yet to come. And a Samhain prayer for children. Samhain is here, cold as the earth, as we celebrate the cycle of death and rebirth. Tonight, we speak to those through the veil. The lines between worlds are thin and frail. Ghosts and spirits in the night, magical beings rising in flight, owls hooting up in a moonlit tree. I don't fear you, and you don't fear me. As the sun goes down far to the west, my ancestors watch over me as I rest. They keep me safe and without fear on the night of Samhain, the witches' new year. With that, everyone, I am out of here for today. I'm going to leave you with a song. This is Merkaba, Ancients Calling. Until next time, love you all.
All those who have come before live inside your veins. Speak the names of all those who have come before you. As we breathe as one. Inside, ancient, future, now. Programs, codes, delete, upload, install. Tissue, bones, Heartbeat, drumbeat. Heartbeat, drumbeat. Heartbeat, drumbeat. Heartbeat, drumbeat. All those who have come before you as one.